Welcome everyone to session 9 of our series, The Dive in the Driver. And today we have none other than Mukesh Gupta, who's joining us all the way from the holy city of Varanasi. Mukesh has been exploring the fundamental questions of life and the timeless insights of J. Krishnamurti, Buddha, and other such authentic teachers for 2.5 decades. He was associated with the Krishnamurti Center in Varanasi for 2 decades. He's a traveler at heart and regularly facilitates self-inquiry retreats, workshops, and dialogues around fundamental questions of life as a friend and a fellow traveler in India, Europe, Israel, US, Canada, and wherever he's invited. He has conducted over 100 retreats and seminars during the past 1 decade. He holds a master's degree in Indian and Western philosophy. He does not consider himself as any spiritual authority, but only a fellow traveler or a co-learner and a tiny explorer of truth, the unknown in this vast, unfathomable universe. He sees that a deep, non-authoritarian meditative process of self-inquiry based on love, listening, and looking from a silent state of mind and heart is essential to establish peace, harmony, and compassion in one's daily existence and society. He currently lives in Varanasi, and his house is open for seekers and friends for dialogues, self-inquiry, and retreats. And very successfully, before getting on the recording, Priya kind of convinced him that me and her are invited to go and spend some time with him when we visit Varanasi next. So thank you, and thank you, Mukesh. Welcome.
Thank you.
I will also now hand over to my co-host for today's session, Priya. So over to you, Priya. Thank you.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. Hello and good evening, everyone who is present with us today. Welcome, Mukesh ji. To begin the session today, our first question to you will be, could you tell us about your journey from a student of philosophy to starting your own work with meditative self-inquiry?
Thank you, Taposhri and Priya, for inviting in this beautiful shared journey of self-exploration. To begin with my journey, I would say that when I was at the age of 16 or 17, I found myself totally discontented about everything. I can say that that was the beginning of an awakening to what is happening around me, what is happening inside me. I had just finished my high school and I was exploring what I'm going to do next. And I found that everything, the education system, the culture, the questions, the way my friends think, I was filled with great discontentment. I was not finding any deep meaning in anything. So it was a great thirst, looking for something which is deeper, which is not mechanical. And out of that thirst and discontentment, I started searching, exploring various philosophies, various teachings. Whatever I could find on my way, I tested it, I experimented with it, and whatever I could learn. And then somehow I was not getting satisfied, with any particular teaching. I was just experimenting with various schools of thoughts and philosophies and teachings. And in that process, I discovered the teachings of J. Krishnamurti, and I felt that there was a teacher who was speaking to my heart directly, without any barrier, without any authority. And this is what I was already feeling in my heart. It was like discovering a fellow traveler, a friend who was speaking directly to me without any wall in between. So I started exploring. There were some friends, very few friends. I found myself very lonely because there was hardly anyone with whom I could share this search. So thankfully, they were a, a small group of friends who were meeting regularly, exploring these questions. And then uh, around, I think in 1999, my search brought me to Varanasi. I was born in Agra, and from there I came to Varanasi, into Krishnamurti Center. And this was my wish that I spend some time with myself exploring these teachings. So I started translating Krishnamurti's teachings, and I did it for almost 9 years. And that was a kind of meditation for me. Just, it was a very intensive work to stay with the teaching, go deeply into every word of it. And so that in that way, my exploration was going on. And that is also a place where seekers from all over the world come. And so this shared exploration was also going on. And I would say around in 2006, if I can describe it as like my second awakening, I, I felt something deeply. And there was a kind of a shattering of many illusions, like the ground on which self is, standing. And I could not, it was so intense that it was difficult for the physical body to contain it. And what was going on, I can only now through memory describe it, but that is not complete. And it was so strong that I had to wish that it stops. And there was some deep insights. And then journey continued, and I started organizing retreats, workshops around these teachings. I started traveling. So this has been my journey. I feel I am still learning, and this awakening is not something mysterious. It's not a static state. It's a continuous unfolding, if I can say. It's a continuous learning and unlearning. Unlearning the false, unlearning what is illusion. So, and this, I feel that I have not arrived at any point, and this unfolding goes on.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. Lovely. So the second question is, how much of an influence has J. Krishnamurti on the work that you do?
Yeah, I would say that two teachers, which I discovered in my teens, who really left deep impression on my psyche, were Buddha and J. Krishnamurti. So I can say that the insights of these two teachers have really, helped me to see many things. So these are my, I would say, deepest teachers. But at the same time, both the teachers, they demand that be a light unto yourself. Explore for yourself. Don't depend on anybody's lights. So this is important, though one learns from these teachers. But unless you realize it in your heart and mind, it is only an intellectual knowledge. So not intellectual knowledge does not bring any liberation or freedom. One can gather, one can become even a professor of philosophy or spirituality. That may not change anything unless that becomes your living truth. So knowing something intellectually is one thing, and allowing that thing to become a living truth is totally different thing. So what insights, like, they have become internalized inside me, that is what I feel matters. And this is what these teachers are saying. Walk on your own. Don't depend on anybody. Don't depend on any teachings. Because teachings are not outside, they are only pointers. Teachings are not in the books, they are, the whole life is a teaching. They are in your heart. The way you live your daily life is the teachings. Your observation, the way you look, the way you listen is teaching. The way you relate to the world, to yourself is teaching.
Beautiful. I have a question before Priya jumps in, and my question is this: that which I mentioned, which I picked up from your webpage, which is like you said, authentic teachers. And now, when you talk about Buddha and Krishnamurti, you said how they encourage you to find your own path, to basically do the search, do the work for yourself, and become the teachings. In your experience, when you were going through this shift in your life, did you come across people or did you have interactions where you felt that, because you use this word authentic teachers very specifically, so did you come across people who you would say, or in your journey, where you picked up something but it was not authentic, and how would you advise people to categorize these authentic teachers as opposed to people who are teachers but not authentic?
Yeah, it's a very subtle question, because it's very difficult to judge who is authentic and who is not authentic, unless I feel that what you feel in your heart, in your whole being, completely, totally, without any doubt, without any conflict inside you, that is authentic. And of course, there are so many seekers, there are so many individuals who are on this path of exploring truth, exploring the unknown. And you keep meeting those people and keep learning. And this deep learning is something unconscious. Your heart learns something and you may not be even aware of it. I feel that is the deepest learning, when you are not even aware that some insight has happened. Later on, you may discover, oh, yes. And any insight or learning happens when the ground is prepared. So, what is more important, whether my ground, my inner ground is prepared, whether the soil is ready to receive the rains. Rains are happening all around. Even a suffering, deepest suffering could be a teaching. You can learn from it if one is open. So one's openness to listening, to receiving, to looking is what makes it authentic. And so that's why we cannot judge anybody that, this person is totally authentic, or everybody has, different shades to one's being. There may be some part which are, intellectual, some parts which could be, you can say, from the heart, and there could be some parts which are whole, harmonious. So there are so many, selves or beings living within oneself. But to keep on asking oneself and also questioning it, that is important. Not take anything for granted, because I may believe in something which may be illusory, and I may totally believe in it, but that doesn't mean that is truth. So that's why this pure observation is very important, and this pure observation contains questioning and negation. So one criteria could be, if there is any conflict in the heart, then there is a question. Yes, something I need to look at. So keep on asking these questions and living with those questions. I feel that is what makes one authentic. And being open to the unknown, which is unpredictable. We cannot, define it.
That's true. I agree.
Yeah, that's right. So, next I want to ask you is, if you could tell us about your school and how do you help others in the to plunge into the right direction of self inquiry? How is it? How do you proceed with it? How do you take it up?
So what I call school, like I call it school for self-inquiry. So first of all, it's not any organizational structure, a kind of a formal structure. A school is a space of learning. Actually, it is interesting. The root meaning of the school is leisure. So in from the Greek language, it means leisure, a deep rest. So a learning happens when the mind is not restless. It is in a deep rest and in a leisure. Then any kind of learning. If mind is chattering, agitated, it can't look, it can't listen, it can't learn. So school is an open space of learning. And this learning is about oneself, about the whole of life, and learning about how mind creates illusions and it lives with illusions. Learning about what is false. When you see something which is false, which is illusory, it drops. It is no longer having that power to dominate your life. So this self-inquiry, I feel that there are certain elements which are essential for this. I call it meditative self-inquiry. First of all, this pure looking. And this looking is not just physical looking, but it's a looking from one's whole being, from one's heart, mind, from all the senses. It's like a deep perception. And this looking is not happening from any conditioned background. Because when we look from a conditioned background, that background starts dictating what I am looking. And that becomes very limiting. So there is a difference between looking and thinking. And many times we mistake thinking for looking. So it is interesting to distinguish that what is deep looking and what is thinking. Thinking may be part of looking. Looking may guide your thinking. Then there is a clarity in the thinking. So this deep looking is part of this self-inquiry. And another essential aspect of the self-inquiry is this deep listening. And this listening is not just hearing. Hearing is only small part of it. So listening from one's whole being, from one's heart, from one's mind. And in this listening, there is no barrier. Because once we listen with a certain idea, with certain prejudice, then I'm not listening. If my mind is chattering, I'm not listening. So this deep listening and looking, they are part of this deep learning. And this can only happen when the mind is in a state of silence, stillness. So it is interesting that only a still mind can look and listen and learn. And at the same time, when you are looking, listening and learning, mind becomes still. So, they both support each other. It's not that first this happens and then another thing comes. And one, I feel the most important aspect of this self-inquiry is this, a sense of deep affection or love. Because when there is a sense of deep affection and love, you naturally listen, you naturally look, then you are sensitive. And then learning happens naturally. So all this is part of this self-inquiry. Though I am describing it with different words, but they are all part of the same process. And it's a movement of learning and unlearning.
Yeah. So, as you mentioned, how does one travel between conditioned to an unconditional space or state? That I would like to know.
See, I would like to share, like, if I have to ask, what is the root cause of all our suffering and fear? Like, this is the real question for any human being, because we all suffer. We all go through fear. These are the two very, deep aspects of human psyche. Because of that, we have all the problems in the world, in the society. What the disorder, the chaos, the violence, or whatever we are seeing outside is only a reflection of what we are from inside. So the outer world is only reflecting what we are psychologically from inside. And the root cause of all these problems is this lack of clear perception. When we don't have this clear perception, suffering comes, and with that suffering, fear comes. Fear and suffering, they're not two separate things, they're the part of the same thing. So this lack of clear perception or pure observation is the ground for all our suffering. And what happens when I am not able to see something clearly? When I don't have this clear perception, I'm not able to discern what is essential and what is non-essential. And when I'm not able to discern what is non-essential from essential, then I am running after non-essential. And non-essential is part of illusion. They're part of our imagination. So craving for the non-essential becomes the ground of suffering. What could be non-essential? Maybe, of course, I cannot define for somebody else, but one's own honesty, sincerity of observation and inquiry will tell us. For example, like I may be, in the race, in this rat race of winning, in any competition, or I'm trying to be at the top of the ladder, or just running after something, but I'm not aware that whether I actually need it. I'm putting all my energy into it, and I'm wasting so much energy that then I am left with no energy to explore deeper dimensions of life. So running after non-essential becomes, a root of our suffering. And when I'm pursuing non-essential, my mind becomes insensitive. It becomes mechanical. So there is a whole, series of it. There is a whole cause and effect of suffering. If we watch it clearly and become aware of it, then we can end it. So being aware of this whole process is part of this unconditioning. When you become aware that what is blocking your clear perception, what is clouding your clear perception, self-interest, this obsessive self-concern is what clouds my clear perception. Can I be aware of it? Of course, I need to take care of myself. I need to take care of my family. But I forget this, where is the line? When I, step into the area of non-essential, I have to take care of my basic needs and the basic needs of my family. But somehow I never know where to stop. It is because of this excessive self-concern. So can I see the danger of living with this self-centeredness? When it becomes really clear, then that thing naturally dies. So do I see that the lack of beauty, the lack of love, the lack of, joy in living a self-centered life, in living a life which has no clear perception, no pure observation?
Yeah. So next, I would like to ask you is, what's the biggest challenge or problem that you face or have faced with working with people in this journey of self-inquiry?
Yeah, see, there are this path is full of, dangers, I would say. Somewhere, I think Krishnamurti also have said, and other teachers perhaps, that if you know the truth intellectually and if you don't live it, then it becomes a poison. So we see there is an explosion of spiritual wisdom or knowledge. The people, they are, trying various things, following so many teachers, and there is a lot of confusion. And any young man who is fired by this search may get easily confused, because there are so many things which are attractive and people are trying to attract and all that. And there has been so much commercialism happening around this whole issue. So this path is full of, dangers, full of risk. That's why this clear perception, which I just talked about, is the only teacher, is the only guide, the inner guide, whom you can trust. But this clear perception doesn't come if you have to really work at it. And you have to really ask deeper questions. And for example, one danger on this path is that if you are following any certain set of beliefs or any particular teaching, just blindly, without questioning, then it may happen, you may get conditioned by it, by the, there is a linguistic structure. That's why I said in the beginning, the teachings or insights are not in the books. They are not in the linguistic structure. Linguistic structure, that those, that language is only a pointer. Various teachers are using different structures, but people get caught in the structure and they fight over it. There are so many divisions in this. I think you are all aware. Every school is opposed to another school. One ashram is, perhaps the same competition which you see in the corporate field and the business world. You will find the same here. There would be hardly any difference, because once you are identified with a certain structure, you are clouding your perception. Now, there is a possibility of illusions, because any identification with any teaching, that blocks learning. So that's why any authentic teacher will remind us, will warn us from getting identified with anything, with its ashram, with its organization, with its foundation, because these insights and teachings are beyond organizational structure. The whole journey of Krishnamurti started in 1929 when he dissolved the order of the star in the east. If you go through his life story, and then he dissolved it. He was the head of it, and he said that no organization, no religion, no teacher, no authority can set you free. You have to be a light unto yourself. You have to explore for yourself. Of course, we can help each other as friends. We can learn from each other. But don't make any cage or prison out of any teaching, out of any ashram, or out of any foundation. I feel freedom is at the very core of the self-inquiry. The first and the last step is freedom.
Yeah, that's right. So, what, in your opinion, is this Gurumukhi attribute of Guru in the spiritual journey?
You see, I read somewhere that the root meaning of Guru is who helps in dispelling the darkness. So anyone or any incident, I would say, who helps in the learning process, in removing that ignorance, that darkness, is a Guru. So Guru is not a fixed entity. The problem with when you make somebody as a fixed Guru, and you get dependent on that, and you start worshipping that, then you stop learning. then there is no difference between a statue and a guru. As you worship a statue, same in the same manner you worship that human being, and there may not be uh, anything wrong in that. If somebody feels happy in doing that, of course, but that doesn't bring about any deep transformation or change. This is what I feel. Your pure observation, your pure perception is what brings about that deep transformation. So if one is really truly open in the heart, in the mind, then one is learning from anything, from any person, then the whole universe is your guru. Every human being is your guru. Your friends who brought suffering to you, who hurt you, they are also guru. Who brought joy to you, they are also guru. So who is not guru then? So, so see, what is important is whether you are a good student or not. My concern should be whether I am a true learner, a true student or disciple. If I am really a true disciple, then I will learn from anything, from any incident, from any suffering.
Yeah. So, what is the future of humanity according to you?
Yeah, this is very difficult to say. What Krishnamurti says, it's very interesting. He said, future is now. What we are now is the future. Because when we start imagining some romantic future that has its own problems, then we may move away from the reality. So what is happening in this moment is the future. So this now contains the whole of time. And if some change, some learning is happening in this moment, then it will reflect in the future. And it looks like that if we watch the world, what is happening around, yeah, there is a growing number of individuals, human beings who are asking deeper questions, who are really discontented about what is happening, because there are still wars going on, lot of this disparity is there, inequality is there. Uh, I heard that around less than 100 people, the richest people, they own half of the wealth of this world. Still, more than half of the world population is living in extreme poverty. In spite of all our technological progress, we have not achieved, to provide the basic needs for all human beings, though it is very much possible. We are still having these nuclear weapons, armies. I read this report that, research, if somehow human beings wake up one day and they see the futility of keeping armies, the enormous amount of money we spend on weapons. If we really learn, if we come out of this dream, this nightmare, and let go of these artificial fears, because these are all artificial fears. We say, I'm afraid of my neighboring country, that's why I'm keeping armies. The same logic the neighbor country gives. So this goes on, and there are so many complex issues around it. So if those resources are not spent in keeping armies and in investing in weapons, every person on this earth would be a millionaire. And even 10% is saved, poverty can be removed from the earth. But somehow we don't see it. We don't sit together, have a real dialogue. And I feel true dialogue can solve any problem. But are we really prepared for it? Are we really ready for it? So I feel the future of world depends on all of us, each individual. If there is a critical mass, if there are people who are asking, inquiring into these questions, it comes to a certain point, who knows, it may affect those world leaders, it may bring about clear perception in their heart, and they may let go of their inner greed and self-centeredness.
Beautiful. I think I agree with you on that. There was a point where I said that these talks that we are having today and the spiritual path and the spiritual journey of a human being never makes it to the mainstream media. What makes it to the mainstream media is who bought how many cars, what bungalow people have shifted in. And I have a big problem with that. Like, why do you never get to understanding the person for the individual that the person is, just rather than all these other materials that he doesn't own? I mean, he buys them, but it's not something that you truly own. In your opinion, since you've been in this work for longer than any of us on this call probably, what do you think stops this entire inquiry, self-inquiry, from becoming mainstream?
You mean what stops it from becoming part of the whole,
Yeah.
that part of the education system and common thinking?
Knowledge. Yeah, not the main, but the main knowledge is always about, things and the society. The society really shies away from sitting and having these difficult conversations. They are not easy conversations to have. So what, in your opinion, really is the problem? Why are we shying away from it?
Yeah, the first of all, as I said, this self-concern, excessive self-concern, the self-centeredness, and we don't see the danger of it, the great limitation of it. This self-centeredness is not in the interest of oneself. I don't see it. We see that it will serve the purpose, but it is counterproductive. And people are really afraid. They don't see in what lies the true security. As you said, we see that security lies in possessing more and more things materially, in gathering more and more knowledge, more and more money, and all that. But we don't realize that all these things are temporary. They are not going to provide any deep security. Of course, we need basic security, as I said, that is part of essential needs. But our life is centered around non-essential things. If we see, there is so much garbage increasing on this planet of so many things. And the main block, I would say, that not seeing the beauty of it, the real need of this self-inquiry. Like in part of in our education, we don't see that very simple things. How do we think? What is the art of thinking? How to think for oneself? These questions are not asked. We are taught what to think, but not how to think. We are not asked this question, how to really look deeply, how to really listen deeply. And when we learn these arts, then we can live a life of harmony, a life of beauty, of love and compassion. So once we start seeing the significance of this self-inquiry and realizing that only without this self-inquiry, without knowing what you are actually, we cannot save the world. Suffering will continue. Without asking these deep questions, we are going to destroy the world. So unless we see, first of all, the danger of living a mechanical life, an insensitive life, and at the same time seeing the great beauty of living a life of quest for truth, living a life with the self-inquiry. So we have to keep asking these questions and also to bring it into the education system, because I feel education is something very important, and that is the basis. Perhaps slowly, I heard that in the news, in the schools, they are slowly trying to bring about these elements. and this is a good news. So we have to accelerate this process.
Do you see, have you seen in the work that you have done, have you seen a change, a shift in consciousness that has happened over the years? And do you see that it has happened, it is happening now as we talk? What do you see?
You mean in the global consciousness?
Yeah, in the global consciousness.
Yeah. It's, I would say, one thing I have noticed that because when I compare, I, like when I was 17 years of age, I started this journey. All those questions started, coming inside me. And I could not find anybody of my age at that time. All my friends were beyond 40. So my friendship was, so I was really, but that was it. And slowly I have been seeing in the last more than 25 years that more and more young people are asking these questions. And things which took me certain time, and I saw that, those older people, it was as if it was the concern of only elderly people who are beyond 40, 50s, who were doing self-inquiry. But I see younger generation slowly coming into this stream. So I would say that is a very, a gradual shift in the consciousness. And a young mind is able to look, understand something without taking much time. Because I meet so many people, I have had dialogues, all these sessions with even at the age of uh, students who were at the age of 11, 12. But we have to, of course, change the language. We have to talk at that level. And they were able to see the things. They were able to see the absurdity of these divisions based on nationality, based on religion. It's very easy. It doesn't take any time. But a person who is deeply conditioned, who may be at the age of 40, 50, he may not be able to see it. So I see it's a very good change. And so I feel the work has to be done with these younger generation, because they are really ready to receive. And before they are brainwashed with so this mass culture and all that, we have to really connect with them and provide these platforms, these space for self-inquiry, space for open dialogue.
Which is
This is
why
what
the work that you, yeah, which is why the work that you do, I totally agree with you. The work that you do and the other schools and your fellow colleagues and, the sort of the direction that you're taking, and which is why it becomes more important and crucial in the times that we are in. Because people seek those answers, and you don't get them in the structures that is already pre-constructed, the ones that we have come from. So breaking away from structures is the first step, and I'm extremely honored that we get to have you as a guest here today, and we have had several other guests who are breaking away from the structures, taking the forefront, coming on as the light bearers and holding this torch up for people. So that's an amazing, amazing work that you're doing. I think Priya and I have asked a lot of questions. Does anyone else on the call who's joined us today have any question for our guest?
Hi Mukesh, thank you for all your thoughts, and it so resonated with the practice I do and what you said, like people who hurt you are your guru as well. I think that resonated with me the most. What I would want to ask is, you said about the essential and non-essential of life, and it is, I believe it is species specific, like what is essential to me might not be essential to another person and vice versa. So I do know the answer, but I don't know. I get lost in it. What is, according to you, essential and non-essential? Is it easy to have a clear divide, or it changes as you progress in life?
Yeah, this is see, this is true that I cannot decide for anybody else what is essential or what is non-essential for that person. It will depend on the clarity of my perception, my observation. And for me, like for example, keeping a small car can be essential for me if I need it. But if I start, craving for, I should have a car which is best in the city. I have to show that car to my neighbor. Like I need a house to live. But my concern becomes I should have such a big palace-like house so that people appreciate it. So then I'm pursuing a non-essential thing. Then I'm not with the essential. I'm just giving a very crude example. So yeah, of course, maybe for somebody who needs, it may be essential to travel in a business class, but for somebody it can be totally non-essential. So it depends on the, like, your inner perception. I again come back to that. Your heart will tell you if there is any conflict within. It is an indicator. Yes, just ask a question. If I am, for example, if I am identified with my country and I'm saying this is the best country on this earth, and I become nationalistic. So nationalism is non-essential. That is for all, I would say. But at the same time, I can care for my country with all my love. I can be very responsible, absolutely responsible. Actually, when I'm not identified with something, I can take care of it in a more efficient way. I can love it in a more authentic way. Actually, that love and care becomes very artificial when I'm identified with that. True relationship happens when there is no identification. It's very interesting. Like identification, I am trying to identify with something in order to search oneness. It's a contradictory thing. Actually, identification creates separation. If I am not separated from anything, I feel one, then there is no need for identification. I will be totally free to relate to that thing, whether a human being or to an organization or to a family or to a country. So there could be so many like non-essential things. Like if I'm identified with a certain belief system, which is stopping me from looking at the whole world without any prejudice. So again, one's own inner exploration will tell me what is essential and what is non-essential.
Thank you so much. I think my next question was, how do we have that line for emotions? But even before me asking, you have sort of answered it, right? By saying, even for human beings. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any question? Rohit, did you have a question?
Yeah.
Okay, I was sorry to put him on spot. I thought he has a question, but he doesn't.
There is one in the chat.
There is no question. It's like Romella, who's also like one of our co-admins, but she agreed with everything you said. The interesting thing about her is that she's into Buddhist chanting. She practices. She's into the Buddhist practice, and she was also one of our guests in the first when I restarted this. And she believes in compassion. Truly, truly, a soul who believes in love and compassion. And so I can completely identify when she identifies with you on this whole journey of self-inquiry, because that's exactly how she lives her life. And I know her in person, so I can say that with a lot of confidence, that she's one of the most compassionate souls that I have met.
Yeah, you can identify when I asked you the question.
Yeah, I could identify. I know where she was coming from, because that's exactly with the, we go with different things, and I know where she's coming from. Yes, Rohit, you have the word.
Hi. Sorry, I was actually on the Arunachala hill today. I was climbing while I was in the session. So I was just turning it on when you asked. See, you said uh, that you are inspired by two people, J. Krishnamurti and Buddha. So I do a lot of vipassana, and that has given me a lot of clarity. So I just it's a personal question, but I'm asking it because I'm seeking that in my practice. It is um, when we read the Buddhist books, we see that doing vipassana in one of the times when Buddha was doing vipassana, it led him to remember all his previous births. Um, did you go through any experience like that? And when does that happen and how do we reach that? Can you just put some light on that? That was what I was going to ask. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very subtle question and also debatable. See, what happens, uh, like if we take the example of Buddha, it is said that Buddha got that illumination on a certain day under that Bodhi tree. But we can never know like what caused it. We like mind is able to find various reasons, causes. Okay, it happens because of this reason. Buddha went to so many teachers. He was not satisfied with any teacher. Then he sat under a tree. This is how the story goes. But see, this illumination or true freedom is causeless. It has no cause. Like love has no cause. So when the mind gives a cause, it is only for the sake of mind's reasoning, mind's logic. So what happens in the previous lives or what happens in this life, we cannot pinpoint that this is the reason because of it happened. That awakening or that freedom happens irrespective of any reason. Like it doesn't depend on any cause. See what Buddha said. He said the first noble truth is suffering. He was not answering any those mystical questions, what is God and all that. He said the only true question for human being is this suffering. Everybody suffers because of so many reasons, and there is a cause of suffering. Be aware of that cause which is, he said, craving is the cause of suffering. Be aware of that craving and end it. And through, he talked about various, that paths, eightfold path. And so what brings the ending of suffering, that is total clear insight of perception. This is what I feel. And that insight of perception is causeless. How it will happen, when it will happen, we cannot predict it. And this is the beauty of it. So this is what I can say. One can do as an experiment, as learning various things. Like when we are experimenting with the spirit of learning, then it is something beautiful. But when it becomes a mechanical thing, it starts clouding my perception. So we have to see when any practice becomes a block in my awakening, in my learning. And this is very subtle.
The reason why I get that, okay, when is that coming, when is that happening is especially right now it is COVID, and sometimes that there is so much uncertainty that we don't know what might happen in the world today. That again brings me the thought that, okay, there is not enough time. And even otherwise, I might that we have one life, and then again there is not enough time. So it's like every time I approach the meditation, I feel that, okay, there is not enough time. When is it coming? So It's with that I am asking. So, how would you respond to that?
See, if I see the real need of anything, if I have that, if I have love for that thing, like if I am totally really interested in the self exploration, then I will find time for it. It will all depend on the intensity of my interest, intensity of my passion, my love. Then that thing becomes effortless. If I'm interested in learning piano or any music or any art, energy becomes available easily. If I'm deeply interested in sitting quietly in meditation, then that, I will somehow, because that is the real trust, and I will find time for it. And it may be for a few moments or, maybe half an hour or whatever. But at the same time, as I said, am I doing it, all these things, with that spirit of learning? But if I am hoping that something extraordinary will come out of it, any hope or any motive in this journey becomes a block. This is something very subtle. So can I do something for the love of it? Can I sit quietly under a tree, sit quietly or walk on a, like as you are walking now, go for a long solitary walk. It becomes meditative when I'm not seeking anything out of it. Any seeking out of anything becomes a block in that journey. So this is the question I always ask. Can I do something for the sake of it, for the love of it? Not only this spiritual journey, which or like doing anything in my daily life. Motive is a corrupting factor. And also, like one more thing which I feel is that, like, no path or system or any certain practice, if I start hoping that I will get liberation out of it, it may be an illusion. Again, I am trying to use it in order to achieve something. Can I experiment with it with that learning mind? That's why Krishnamurti, I really like this. Truth is a pathless land. So you have to discover for yourself.
Thank you.
Beautiful. We have Sunita who has a question. Sunita, you have the word. Hold on, I need to unmute you. Yes, Sunita.
The last sentence, I was just thinking that the seeking, I was just feeling that maybe the seeking is something which is clouding the whole process, the bit which you mentioned at the end. Can you hear me?
Yeah, there is some background noise.
I've stopped the background noise. I don't know where it was coming from. So go on, Sunita, we can hear you.
So whatever we do, there is a motive always of achieving something. By doing certain thing, I always expect the moment I start doing something, there is a seeking. Actually the seeking itself is glorified to extent that you are a seeker and you need to do 1, 2, 3, 4 things. Something completely glorified. There is no importance of just learning or being with that or doing the inquiry part of it. All of us are more or less conditioned that you need to be a seeker. So by doing certain things, you're going to get somewhere. So that is you move from this end to that end. So that is a better place to be. So to be there, you need to do something completely tuned in. So how to really dismantle this process?
Yeah. So can I be a seeker without seeking anything? It's paradoxical. See, all these, truths, I feel that they are paradoxical. Can I really learn without any motive? And this learning is also unlearning. Unlearning is inherent in the learning, in any deep learning. So this, if I realize that whenever the ego is trying to seek something in order to fulfill in the future, there is a fragmentation, there is a corruption involved in that. And do I see the danger of that? Whenever the self-centeredness comes with a particular goal, I stop learning because my focus in becomes, achieving on that thing. But the true real learning about oneself, about life is from moment to moment. So looking at what is happening in this moment, looking at if my mind is occupied with certain stories of the past, if my mind is occupied with certain hurts which it received in the past, I mean, if it is all the time thinking about it and imagining what will happen in the future, then mind is losing the clear perception. So can I become aware of this whole thing? So this choiceless awareness is the real freedom. Choiceless awareness of what is. The root cause of our conflict is that we are all the time chasing what should be or what should not be. And we are never exploring or staying with what is. And what is the real now. What is happening inside me or outside. So can I look at it? And that looking will tell me, like, what are the blocks, what is the root cause of the problem. And it will also show what is, creating this whole fragmentation. And suppose if I am not aware, if I'm not able to look at something, so let us not make it a problem out of it. Simply be aware of it, that I'm not looking is not happening, because I cannot force myself to be aware, to be looking all the time. So then I'm not making practice out of anything. Then it is that learning is alive. It's like a river flowing.
So one more thing, when we say moment by moment, one is, as you said right now, sometimes I can catch myself that I'm one thought leading to the other, one thought leading to the other. I'm in that default mode. So that time it will be much more easy to be aware of it. But when not being aware, or so that time, as you said right now, just being aware that I'm not aware of, or not being present to it itself, yeah, that is the thing. Otherwise, it happens like, oh, I'm not aware of it, so let's blame, or let's do something sadhana, or some other things will come up. But just being present that, okay, I was not aware at that moment itself can help us to get back to be in moment by moment.
It is interesting that you cannot be aware that you are aware. You can only be aware that you are unaware. So attention is about inattention. Whenever mind is going in the mode of inattention, the attention is required. That pure observation is required. But there is no need like that you have to be aware that, oh, I am now observing. Otherwise, fragmentation comes. When you say I am aware, the awareness goes. I has come. That's why this awareness, this freedom has no center. It has no I. Otherwise, the ego will try to capture everything. It's a very subtle game. I remember, yeah, there is.
Go on, sorry to interrupt you.
No, please.
I thought there was a message from Kaushik who's like, if we do something just for the love of it, in order to not have a motive, as motive denies destination, isn't this knowledge a motive in itself? How to avoid this subtler the subtle motive. That's his
Yeah,
question.
yes. If I'm aware of this process, then this contradiction can be avoided. Because if I am making any idea into an ideal or any perception or a teaching, then of course I am blocking myself. And that's why any insight happens in the moment. It's like, that's why it is said it's a flash. A flash of insight comes and it passes through. But later mind may turn into a knowledge. Then that knowledge is no longer an insight, that intellectual knowledge. That's why it has to be living in that moment. And nobody else except my inner clarity, inner perception can tell me whether it is a intellectual knowledge or it is a living truth.
Okay, does anyone else have any question?
Hi, Namaskar, Mr. Mukesh, and hi everyone. While you were giving this talk, you mentioned the self-inquiry journey is also at times dangerous. So, well, I am very scattered human being. So, and I don't identify myself with anything. Though I'm qualified lawyer, criminal lawyer, I'm only a lawyer when I'm in the courts. Then otherwise, I'm not. I'm also a Buddhist chanter, but I don't call myself a Buddhist. I'm born to a Hindu parent, so I'm not a Hindu. So I'm kind of all over the place. But I have realized having this kind of approach towards life has actually got me through very worse situations, which is very unlikely for commonly I've not encountered with my friends or the circles. But that particular journey to come out through those situations has also taught me a lot many things, and also, like you said, it has unlearned a lot many things too. But that danger you mentioned, can you give more light on that danger part? Like, how, what do you actually mean? According to you, what is that danger part during this process of self-inquiry or the journey of self-inquiry?
The danger I was talking about was the danger of getting identified with anything. And
Being
when
blocked, right?
yeah,
If I
it
understand.
blocks. Yeah. And when I get identified, I stop learning. And the danger is that if I don't understand myself, that self or the ego is a very, very subtle thing. And it may turn anything in for its own sake. So that's why one has to keep looking at it. And it requires really great clarity and this clarity of perception from moment to moment. And that's why I say that it's not that I have one scene and it is finished. I have to see each time, each day. It's like digging the well each day and getting the fresh water. It's not that I have dug the well, now I keep on drinking. That may be an illusion. It's the same that as you feed yourself every day, you need good food, isn't it? Healthy, good food, organic food, unadulterated food. Every day you drink water. So these insight, these perception, this self-inquiry is like that. It's like a river, and river stops flowing when I become tied blindly to anything. And when I start seeking security uh, in any fixed structure, then the ego feels secured in a certain structure. And then I am actually denying the possibility of a deeper freedom, of deeper breakthrough. These are the, I would say, the dangers here.
Thank you. So I think I'm on the right track. Being completely scattered all the time and not being identified to anything. Thank you so much.
And as I said, when you are really, when you are not identified, you can serve better. You
Yeah,
can do,
I do
yeah,
agree.
you can take care of things in a more deeper way, not in an
And
artificial or forced manner.
you can see, like, you can have a vision of a bird eye viewpoint to the situation
Yes.
that I get mostly. So I, yeah, yes, I do. Scattered is being good. I'm on the right track. Thanks, Taposhri. Thank you, Mr. Mukesh.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any question?
I have a question to Mukesh ji. My question is, if you were to tell us about one favorite philosopher of yours, who would it be and why?
It is difficult to answer. As I said, I talked about Buddha and J. Krishnamurti. If you want to call them philosopher, though they say they are not philosophers, they are seers. Seers, like who see things as they are. And Ramana Maharishi, I said, I appreciated a lot. Nisargadatta Maharaj, I appreciated a lot. And Socrates and Plato, I would say. Socrates said, an unexamined life is not worth living. It's a big statement. Without asking this question, know thyself. No, there is no basis for your living. Living with harmony, with sense of beauty and truth. So, yeah, I think in this journey you come across so many beautiful friends and so many philosophers, and they all, in a way, help you. They are like gifts. You learn and you move. You know, don't allow your river to stay at just one place. Keep on moving. Go.
I'll ask a follow-up question. So just as you invited me and Priya over to your, house very beautifully before we started the session, which she sort of got us into, who from the past would you like to have as a guest at your house?
You mean past those
Yeah,
teachers or
one of those
philosophers?
past teachers who's not there in the physical body today. So who would you say, for example, if me and Priya, if we are coming over and you would have a guest who's not in the physical body, who would you like to invite from the past?
Yeah, of course. I would like to invite J. Krishnamurti, who is no more there physically. And if another friend or philosopher, I would say Socrates. I feel that Socrates is in my heart. This whole dialogue process. I would like to invite Plato. Yeah,
That's a big
and
gang. Well, on that very note, I would really like to thank you for your time today. And I know we have run past an hour. We always have the session for an hour, but we overrun them because it's so interesting and it raises so many questions and it helps people to reflect and to take a step back and see where they are, where they want to go. And in this journey, I'm glad you could take time out and be a part of us. And like I said, I can't stress this enough, the work that you are doing along with all the other people and the retreats that you organize. I think they are just the starting, the stepping stones to something bigger and massive, which should be like a mainstream movement of self-inquiry. And I can't thank you enough for the amazing work that you're doing. I know you're busy with the retreats. When I publish this video, I'm going to put link to his work and his school for everyone to see. And if you ever visit Varanasi, do give him a shout and do go and see him. And Debolina is nodding because she recently came back from Varanasi. She didn't know about you. If she did, she would have visited.
I'm certainly coming next time.
Yeah, so I think we have a wonderful like group of people and friends who are more than willing to join you and help you and support you in your work, Mukeshji, going forward. And I think it's a big network. And welcome and thank you for being a part of us today.
thank you so much, all of you, and you're all welcome. If you are passing through Varanasi to come and have a cup of tea and have, meditative dialogue together. I feel this is such a great beauty in this work. And I also feel I would like to share that whatever we do with this, this element of love and compassion, that is something deep. In the absence of love and compassion, whatever we do becomes non-essential and also in the long run destructive. So just keep asking if there is a true love and true compassion in whatever I am doing in my daily life. Then that daily life becomes a real spiritual journey. I don't have to call it. There's no need to categorize it. This is a spiritual life, this is material life. When you are really living life fully with harmony, with sense of wholeness, then all these categories, they also disappear. You are in a way nobody. When you become truly nobody, you are everything. You are part of universe. You are part of the whole. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.